that you've never had before, and that's okay. So we want to make sure that we lay out some group norms and some virtual norms just so that we are ready to go into these conversations. So I'm going to change my screen real quick. All right, can everybody see my screen where we have virtual norms and group norms? Awesome. So we included some here. This is something that we do every year, and we have some recurring ones, but I also want to open it up to anybody if you would like to add anything, if you have any thoughts. I'll go ahead and read off a few of these. This first one was actually introduced to us by Matthew last week during our first partnerships meeting. And just to recap what exactly it means, it's the permission to be raggedy. So you can just say whatever you feel, however you feel, without having the pressure to say it perfectly. So here I am stuttering. This is a perfect example. Don't be scared to just share your thoughts. It's not going to come out perfectly. It's not going to come out eloquently. But what is going to come out is that you're going to learn about yourself and about others, and you're going to have a meaningful conversation. So just don't stress about sounding raggedy, because that's okay. So next are some virtual norms that we kind of already covered today, but we just invite that if you can keep your camera on as much as possible, it'll be the best way to get to know each other. Keeping your mic muted unless you would like to say something, and if so, and if you're in a big group, you can go ahead and raise your hand. That way we don't have people talking over each other. I encourage that you are using that grid view. That way you can see everybody else's faces and not just like a presentation. To continue using the chat and the other features on Zoom, the reactions. So if you like something someone said, that you can amplify that and celebrate that. So actually, if Harnoor is in here, can I call you in to explain this point? This is something that we talked about a little before as an e-board and in previous years.
I don't think she's here. I think she had to leave.
I think she might have had to leave then. Well, can I call on any other e-board members? I'm getting tired of hearing myself talk. Okay, that's okay.
I can go.
Sweet, awesome.
Okay, so I think that this point is just trying to say that obviously we have exercises such as community building because we want to like build that bond and have everyone be close in Globe Med, but at the same time, you never know like what's going on in someone's life or what they've experienced in the past. So it's important not to ask someone to share something, especially if they like seem uncomfortable with it, or if they're like, I'd rather not, if they're like done, not to push anyone.
Exactly. So let's just be mindful that we might talk about personal experiences, and just don't push too much for someone to share something that may be traumatic for them, but also just encourage them to share if they feel comfortable sharing with you. So then this next point here, we have addressing ignorance and misinformation by calling people in. So pretty much what that means is in GlobeMed, we want this to be a space where you can learn and you can share your experiences and get to listen to other people's experiences. And I think it's important that when we are having a conversation that might be difficult, to avoid calling people out, because I don't think we should ever be attacking each other in our thoughts or in the experiences that we share. So we just ask those people to be called in to share their experiences, not called out. Does that make sense? Can anybody else elaborate on that a little bit? I'm giving myself the permission to be raggedy with these. Okay. So next, we encourage you to not be a bystander if you're uncomfortable or if you notice someone that might be in distress, if there's a comment that somebody makes that might make you feel uncomfortable or might make somebody in the group feel uncomfortable, so go ahead and speak up. And you could always use that private message chat to me and Shaylin so that we can address the situation if it's ever uncomfortable. So those are just some general norms that we have talked about before in our e-board and in previous years. But like I said, I want to open this up to you so that we can add on this and that you have a voice in these group norms. So if you would like to share a group norm, I ask that you just use that hand raising feature so that we can call on you, or you pop it in the chat.
I actually have one that I think we should add. So I want to kind of invite the idea of step up / step back. So knowing when is a good time to speak, when you should share your thoughts and your opinions, and knowing when is a good time just to listen. So if you're kind of a person who talks a lot and you know that usually in group settings, you'll be the one to volunteer to kind of share information or things like that, maybe trying to invite people who aren't as active in that conversation to kind of join that conversation. Knowing when to kind of take a step back from that role and to invite other people to have that role.
So to kind of just piggyback on that thought, I think last year someone mentioned you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you should do twice as much listening as you do talking. So that might be a good little rule of thumb to keep in mind as we're having conversations in small groups or big groups. If anybody has any other thoughts and wants to put it in the chat, you can go ahead and do that.
I also want to note that this doesn't have to be like a decision that's made now. This can kind of be a living document. So if we think of norms that we want to add later on in the semester, you know, a few weeks from now, that's totally fine too.
All right. So we will go ahead and share this during our recap email. And like Shaylin said, this could be a living document. If you want to add anything or want to change anything, we can always talk about it during meetings. So with that being said, I will go ahead and move on so that we could get into our discussion for today. All right, so I'm just going to hand the mic over to Jonathan and Anish, our internal GHU coordinators. They helped put this together, and they will be running the show.
Hey everyone, glad to have you all here. As Maria mentioned, I am Jonathan, and I'm one of the 2 internal GHU co-coordinators this year, along with Anish. So I thought we'd start off today with just a quick definition of social determinants of health, which is what we're going to be talking about for the next 45 minutes or so. Just to introduce the idea to those of you who haven't heard about it before, to make sure that everyone's starting on the same level so that for any future discussions, you know how to think about this topic. So the social determinants of health are the conditions in the environments in which people are born, live, work, play, worship, and age that affect a wide range of health, functioning, and quality of life outcomes and risks. The conditions in which we live explain in part why some of us may be healthier than others and why some of us are not as healthy as we could be. That last part of the definition is what I really want to highlight, why some of us are not as healthy as we could be. Keep that in mind as we look through the rest of the presentation on differing life expectancies, differing factors that are changing the way that people live their lives in America and the world around us. Maria, can we go to the next slide?